Hey everybody and welcome to the PC Gamer Show. My name is Tom Marks and here joining me today is not a developer guest for the first time in a couple weeks. It's been a while since I've been back sitting with my coworkers. I'm joined by Wes Fenlon. How you doing, Wes?
Hey, I'm doing all right.
And James Davenport over there in the corner. How you doing, James?
Oh gosh, you don't even know. So good.
You did call me a guest earlier today, which I found it was an honor.
Well, your presence is a gift, so we're glad you guys are here.
Good day.
Seriously, it's been a long time because I had 2 weeks interviewing developers the last 2 weeks of the show, and then the 2 weeks before that I was gone.
Yeah.
So this is actually the first time in like 5 weeks I've been sitting down and doing the PC Gamer Show with the PC Gamer crew. So I'm excited for it. Yeah. And it's going to be a good one. So last weekend, me and Tyler went to PAX East. Tyler was going to join us to talk about PAX, but he came down with the PAX pox and is currently sickly and pale. And so we...
How did you avoid that?
I got just like a little cold. I have a really, really good immune system. Like my immune system is...
No big deal.
You're young, that'll change.
No, it's kind of a bad thing and sometimes. But like they literally like...
What?
Well, never mind. I won't go on.
Let's
Don't worry about it.
All right.
But
Oh, I just try to get sick. I can't. Such a downer.
basically, we're also going to be specifically talking about Pyre, which is Supergiant, the developer of Bastion and Transistor's new game, which I got to play at PAX, but I really want to talk about that game separately. We'll also be discussing John Romero's new Kickstarter game called Blackroom, which is both exciting and had an interesting Kickstarter start, so we can discuss that. And then, of course, we'll be taking your questions from Twitch chat, as usual. But first, let's go around the room. Let's see what we've been playing lately. Let's start with James.
Oh man, I got my list. I got my
know.
list.
That's why I started
You need a
with you
list.
this time.
Damn.
He's always got a list.
I'm prepared. Well, I've continued to play Dark Souls 3, which maybe Wes I imagine, will talk about a bit.
I've probably played more than you this week, just because
Yeah.
you've already you've done everything.
Yes.
At least once.
I've played a lot of that game.
Maybe not everything, but you played a lot.
Most of that game. I've just kind of been hopping in and out of that to do multiplayer stuff here and there, and it's a lot of fun. Just helping people with bosses. If I have like 15 minutes, I'll just hop in and do some bosses casually. It's a lot of fun. Otherwise, I've been playing Quantum Break. You guys hear about this PC game that came to the PC, Quantum Break?
Quantum Break really sadly just kind of here and gone for Remedy. You know, I don't, not that it necessarily deserved to stick around. It's a pretty short game. It's an action game, but kind of hoped that it would have a little more impact because I love Max Payne, you know, and I love Alan Wake. So I was kind of disappointed that more didn't come out of it.
Yeah, I was excited for that game too, but when I heard what the state of the PC port was, I was just like, I'm okay with this for a while.
Yeah, and that's exactly the problem I'm having is I don't have, a terrible PC at home right now.
Hey, I built that PC.
You did. Yeah, I don't mean like it's a bad PC, but it's like, it's not top of the line, it's not bottom of the line. It's pretty fucking.
It's like
great.
a last gen i5 and a 970, I think.
Yeah. So should be able to run something like Quantum Break, which is, looks pretty good on the Xbox One from what I can see, fairly well. And that doesn't seem to be the case. It stutters like mad occasionally, certain areas. I don't really know what the deal is. And it's especially bad and weird during the television parts of the game.
Like the FMV stuff?
Just video, right?
It's just video, but I don't know what it is, just the way it's encoded, because it's streamed. It's not like saved locally. It stutters the entire time. And when it comes to an eclectic action scene, of which there are many in that game and that show, I don't know what to call it. It's sickening to watch just because it's just like a slideshow. Not quite a slideshow, but just the action's not fluid and just hard to keep your eyes focused.
That really sucks.
So wait, it just sends you to like a YouTube video basically?
No, it's a built-in streamer. So an episode will end out of nowhere, like an episode. I mean, like a chapter of the game, an act, and you'll get like in Alan Wake, you'll get a song, and it'll say end of Act 2. and then it'll just pop you into a video player that said like previously on the show and give you a rundown of what happened on the show, and then it'll just start playing the show.
Strange.
It's very weird. The problem I've run into, the biggest problem is the most damning thing about the UWA way they've packaged this game,
which is the new Microsoft Universal Windows app platform that they're kind of trying to push as a new way to distribute software.
Yeah, and ideally it's like a slick way to do stuff. Ideally,
it's as good as the shit we've been using for 20 years.
Exactly.
Yeah. Ideally, in air quotes.
So I hit Act 4, which is apparently supposed to be, and I haven't even said what I thought about the game yet, but I hit Act 4, which is what is supposedly supposed to be the coolest part of the game. And it's nearing the end, and it just crashes anytime I try and load it.
Wow.
With any other PC game, I might be able to look up troubleshooting advice and dig around in the files and try different things, and with UWA, I can't really. The options I have are limited to stuff outside of the game, so maybe my drivers and troubleshooting stuff like that. But otherwise, I can uninstall the game, or I don't know,
or just keep playing it, letting it crash.
Yeah. Wait for a patch. I don't know.
Like fun.
So that's been really extremely frustrating, and typically I might expect that from some PC games, right? To have bugs and and I might step up to the challenge with my PC spirit and try and fix it, but I literally cannot do anything about it, or at least much, and that's been really just a bummer. So I just stopped playing the game.
Man, that's like the worst reason to stop playing a game.
Yeah,
there's so many reasons why you would get into a long game and just be like, I'm just not going to play this anymore. And it's like the worst possible one is I physically can't play it anymore.
Some solutions I've heard have been to uninstall and re-download and reinstall it, but it's like, I think it's like 50 gigs or something crazy, so it's not like an easy thing to do. I'll try it eventually, but I might just wait for a patch.
At some point, I think you can kind of fairly say, you know what, screw you, I don't want to do that. If the only solution to this, a thing that might fix it, is like deleting the game, which I cannot get into and access and try to fix myself and reinstall it, and maybe that'll work. That's a reason to leave it uninstalled.
It's a bummer. As to the game itself, it's also my least favorite of what Remedy's done so far, I guess. I don't think it's a terrible game by any means, but I think it suffers from its just being what it is. It's, to map out a television show, get some decent, B-list actors in there, and to lock them into a schedule, and then have to also make a game around that stuff that's already locked in, means you can tell that there was plenty of compromises in how the narrative plays out and the design, because they had to make decisions early. That's my theory, at least, is there wasn't really much they could do once they made a decision, and it's sort of suffers from that. I say this because the game itself is extremely linear. Their other games are fairly linear too, but this one in particular feels mega funneled down a path. And the patterns and the things you're doing are, something goes wrong with time and you need to find another way in. That's every level. There's a warehouse. You need to find another way in because the door is locked. Time is doing things. The characters aren't
time.
And I expect a certain amount of cheese, and I don't expect to take these the games they do seriously, because they seem to riff on pop culture tropes quite a bit. I think it worked better with the extreme noir of Max Payne and the Twin Peaksy, Stephen Kingy expectations that Alan Wake put out.
For sure.
This is more of a straight up action movie with some, I don't want to say self-serious sci-fi trappings, but it's the type of thing that it's harder to get away with this goofy ass shit in. So anytime there's a poorly written line or a line that you can tell was like a Finnish writer trying to write American action hero, it instead sounds a bit awkward and less endearing. It's kind of hard to quantify unless you hear it yourself, but
Quantum Five?
get out of here.
And that's weird too, because Sam Lake is such a good writer.
Yeah.
That at no point playing Max Payne 1 or 2 or Alan Wake did I ever feel like it was. It never gave me the vibe that like Life is Strange gave me. Where, okay, these people are writing in kind of a setting and like age of characters that is kind of outside of the zone that they're completely familiar with, and so that leads to some awkward phrasing and some weird stuff. But it's still, the character's still shown through in the end. I liked Life is Strange a lot, but there's some awkwardness there. But I never felt that in Max Payne. I felt like he knew exactly the tone and style of hammy, like noir, and same with the Stephen King style of Alan Wake. Like it was perfect.
Yeah.
Just to interject, Galaxy Bracelets in the chat says he should just say that he hated it.
I don't hate it. I think it's fun to play, but final point on just why the Remedy's charm is kind of slipping away is I think because they use like real actors you've seen before, and when you see an actor that spit out some awkward lines or some cheesy lines, like a face you recognize, as opposed to the very video game characters of Alan Wake and Max Payne, you're seeing an actor say these things and not like a gameplay mannequin, and so there's like a bit of disconnect there as well. I mean, I don't think it's a terrible game. I think it's like a big concept that was hard to execute perfectly, especially the first time, and it's like marred to a very, very disappointing degree by just like the quality of the UWP port stuff. So
restricting platforms never makes anyone happy.
That's besides that. I played Sven co-ops, which maybe we can touch on a bit.
Yeah, that's right.
In Wes's or something.
That was quite
You played what?
Sven co-op.
What is that?
Quite a Friday afternoon.
Tell me about this, Wes.
Yeah, so on Friday, those of us who weren't at PAX, jumped on decided like, let's play a game together for like the last hour of the day before we all go home for the weekend. And we're like, okay, what can 5-6 people play? And so Evan suggested this game it's built on Half-Life 1 engine, but I don't know if it's technically a Half-Life 1 mod. I'm not quite sure how to classify it, but it's basically a just weird-ass large multiplayer. You can have up to 32 people on a server, I think, kind of co-op shooter in that engine designed to just let people build their own just gonzo maps and throw them in there, and then you can just join a random server, download a random map or whatever, and play through these very, very weird, very 2000-esque feeling maps that people designed with objectives and NPCs and uniquely created environments and all this stuff. And that's what we did for like an hour and a half. We played this Egyptian-themed level someone had made that was really elaborate. It started you kind of near a pyramid with this big gate that had like 4 buttons that you basically had to trigger before you could go through the gate. And you had to go traveling underground through this facility into the pyramid, eventually finding the buttons to enable to open the gate. And there were aliens that would just pop up all over the place, and then mummies, and I think there were some mummies. Like weird army guys there trying to kill you too. And the whole game plays sort of like, it's kind of janky because it feels like a cobbled together mod of a game that's 15 years old. So you'll get just weird weapon combinations. At some point we got like I guess it was one of the alien weapons. It was like a poison grenade launcher. Yep. And then you'd have your basic, we had like assault rifles, a couple different pistols, all this stuff. But it would just do like weird kind of hacky moments where you'd be walking down a hallway and then you just get a like, scream for a couple seconds, and you're like, whoa, what the hell? And like the lights all flicker, and then just like 10 aliens just appear, just spawn in, like surrounding you, and we're all like, oh, we all freak out. And the animations for healing each other are really funny because you'd like have to pull out like your heal pack, and then to heal somebody you'd kind of click on them, and your character would just do this like very jerky, just move the med kit out towards them and then back. So we would just like 4 of us would stand in a circle and just heal pack each other while it played a little sound effect. It was funny.
It's ridiculous.
But it was really cool. I mean, the level this person created was super elaborate and, felt like it was the right combination of good level design and just like what the fuck level design that feels appropriate for a mod. There's a whole section ripped straight out of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade where you have to, like the penitent man must kneel, and so you kneel under the saw blades that go over your head. And then there's like the invisible bridge that you have to just take on faith that is there. It was just a weird time, but it was a lot of fun.
That sounds really strange and cool. And it was co-op.
Yeah, you could have up to 32 people, I think. That might vary by map.
I was going to say 32 people in like a Left 4 Dead style co-op game sounds insane.
It'd be ridiculous.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how that kind of stuff scales, because there were a couple parts where we found you needed to have someone stand on somebody else's head to be able to make a jump. And if there'd only been 2 people doing that, I'm not sure if we could have completed the map. Or maybe we just could have made a jump that was super, super hard to make without that. I'm not sure. So I'm not sure if that scales, or some maps are designed for a different number of people. There are tons of maps out there. We only played 2 of them, and the Egyptian one was the one we spent 95% of our time in, because the other one wasn't very good. But I think we're going to play more of it, because it's just the right kind of throwback to a time when people could just mod these very, very bizarre levels by themselves without it being like a massive time investment, because it's so low detail, the graphics and stuff, that I imagine it's pretty easy to just put those pieces together. So that was Sven Co-op. That was interesting. It's free.
I'm getting in on that next time.
It's free on Steam.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How do you spell it?
I believe it's SVEN, right?
Yep.
SVEN. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll look that up, and I'm call next game, man. That sounds good.
Yeah, maybe this week. Other than that was like the main thing I played.
Somebody in the chat was
Friday.
speculating you were playing Dark Souls because of your shirt.
You would be guessing correctly, yeah. Didn't play a lot over the weekend, but I have played like a decent amount this week. I'm like maybe halfway, probably not even halfway, maybe a third of the way through the game. I don't know if I'm at Cathedral of the Deep. That's not really a spoiler, because that's the name of a place. Sorry if you're pissed now.
Oh man, spoilers!
But yeah, I've been doing like a lot of. Most of the time when I die, I'll go back to a boss fight and put my summon sign down. Help 1 or 2 people play through it, just to get some souls, get a new ember, and kind of just been slowly making my way through the game. I've found that 90% of the time that I ember up and enter an area, I would get invaded. It's
a lot.
Very, very regular, very common. But I've usually been summoning some people to help, and have actually won more fights against invaders than I've lost. And I definitely take a particular joy in having someone invade me and then having 2 people on my side, and then us just 3v1ing them and just mercilessly piling on. It's one thing if you want to duel someone, all well and good, but when someone comes to invade you, like, they deserve everything that they have coming to them. And I think most of the people who do invasions
expect it.
Yeah, like that is part of the thing for them, is to play with, to taunt the person that they've invaded, try to pull them through the level, and they know they're up against stiff odds. So that's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying the game right now. I definitely don't feel quite the spark that I felt with the first game, but mechanically it's so much more polished. It's just a better feeling game for sure. Obviously a better looking game.
Would you say that the flame is not quite as bright in this game?
I wouldn't say that, Tom.
I'm on fire with the terrible jokes today.
I will not acknowledge that is a thing that I might say about the game. Now I think it's the best game ever made because of your terrible joke.
I'm sorry. Well, let's move along. I'll briefly mention I've been playing Duelist, which I mentioned last week. We had the developers on. I've been playing a little bit of Hearthstone since the expansion came out yesterday. I corrected myself. Anybody? I said Hearthstone and then Hearthstone.
Ugh.
I've been weirdly playing, and this I'll mention very briefly because I think I'm going to bring it up longer on next week's or the week after's show. This isn't a PC game, but I know, but. I'm testing a device right now that lets you play console games, like any console game, with a mouse and keyboard. So last night I borrowed a PS4 from the office because I don't own one, and I borrowed a copy of Destiny, and I played through like the first few levels of Destiny with a mouse and keyboard just to see what it was like because I'd never played the game before, and it was a very weird experience to have aim assist that heavy on a mouse control.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's just a little taste. I'm going to bring that up probably as a whole topic in the week or so to come because it was super weird and super cool, and like let's just say it didn't convince me to buy a PS4, but it was like a neat experience coming from someone who's only ever has been a PC gamer for like the last only a PC gamer for the last like 5 or 10 years.
It's really a shame that with the new consoles, and I think the last gen consoles supported like you being able to hook up a keyboard to them and stuff, but it wasn't really a thing that games supported. It's a shame that that's still the standard, that you can plug a mouse and keyboard into your PS4 without a device to translate those controls, but it just doesn't work in games.
I think there are a couple like MMOs
that allow you
that work.
It'd be Final Fantasy 14.
I think that's one of them, but it's not many. You're right.
And I understand totally the reasoning behind, you would have to try to balance a game like Destiny that has PvP around mouse and keyboard when 98% of your audience would be playing with a controller. That's a pretty good reason not to have those controls baked in, but I still wish that was an option for people. Yeah.
Well, we can jump along because the thing I've mainly been playing this last weekend was PAX. I've been playing PAX. For those of you who don't know, last weekend was PAX East. It was the big PAX Penny Arcade Expo in Boston. And we basically just played video games for 3 days. A lot of games that haven't come out yet. A lot of games that I was really excited to play the first time I had seen them in person. And a lot of stuff that they had never made playable before. Like Lawbreakers was there playable for the first time. And unfortunately, I didn't get to try it because Tyler got to try it beforehand at the Boss Key Studios, and then I just didn't want to wait in the line. The lines were huge for Lawbreakers. There was also just a lot of team-based shooters there. Like Battleborn had a huge booth with a line out the door. Overwatch had a huge booth with a line out the door. It was just a lot of these competitive multiplayer shooters that we've been talking about for a while as almost coming out, showed up in full force at PAX East.
So question before we talk about many of the other games at PAX East.
Yeah.
Do you think the rebirth of the arena shooter, the character-based team shooter, do you think this is a Highlander situation? Can there only be one that will eventually stand on top?
No. I think that shooters are different than MOBAs. To me, the MOBA genre will always be dominated by a very, very small handful of games that are the MOBA games. But shooters, at least the ones with very differing mechanics, there's always a place for that. There's always going to be the person that would rather play a game like Siege than a game like Call of Duty, or the person who'd rather play a game like TF2 than a game like Lawbreakers. Those are very different experiences, even though they are within the same genre and very similar to each other. So I think that those games will probably live in harmony for a little bit before one game kind of loses, steam, or some of the games lose steam, but that's not going to be any different than just the normal process of games losing steam over time. Some of the stuff I did play, which I was really excited to play though, is one of the first thing I saw there, the very, very first thing I played was a game called Pit People, which was actually announced last year at PAX East. So it's been a while, but it's the Behemoth's new game.
The developers of Castle Crashers.
Alien Hominid, Battle Block Theater, and it's not like any of those games. Those games are all side-scrolling shooters or beat-em-ups. This is a turn-based strategy game from them. In the same style, still that kind of hand-drawn stuff, still a really silly style, but it is a turn-based strategy game. And it's very simple. It's like a one button, or like only a couple buttons. And you select all of the movements of your characters at the same time, and then you hit go, and it all happens. And then the enemy does the same. But the thing that was so weird about this game, for anybody who played Battle Block Theater, they got the announcer, the guy who does the voiceovers, an animator, or a voice actor, and I think animator named Stamper. He came back for this, and so it's that same ridiculous sense of humor. But the thing that I found was so funny about this is the clip that I just pulled up now. This is some old footage of Pit People. It looks pretty much like Castle Crashers is like aesthetic, right? There's swords, there's shields, there's bows and arrows. There's a tractor in the background, but you don't really think about that. Castle Crashers had weird things too. The plot of the game is that a giant corpse of a space bear has crashed into the planet and has reordered time and space and caused all this crazy stuff to happen. So the weird thing is, though, you do a couple levels in this demo of like maces and helmets and swords and fighting like that. And then you get to one point in the game where you're in an arena and you're fighting guys with swords and or bows, and then somebody yells like, "Bring on the speckled horseman," and you're like, "What?" And suddenly a giraffe being suspended by party balloons flies out of the sky and drops off a man with 2 Uzis, and then he's suddenly a new enemy in the fight, and you're like, that's really weird and not medieval at all. And then the next mission takes place at a beach party with like convertible cars and hot rods there, and it gets crashed by a Spanish conquistador crashing into the beach. And then you go and rescue like an anthropomorphic cupcake that is throwing frosting at you to heal people. And then there's later in the game like vampires and stuff. It's just because the idea is that time and space has been rearranged, anything goes. And if you give the Behemoth, which is already like a crazy developer with weird ideas, a game where they're just like, fuck it, we can do anything we want. Like, it's just insanity. It is the weirdest game.
So they've basically made like the Bill and Ted of strategy games.
Kinda, yeah. But like even sillier, if that's possible.
Yeah.
It's like Bill and Ted combined with Bill and Ted 2.
I mean,
What?
I would still consider that just, in the grand scheme of Bill and Ted.
Yeah, I know.
Oh,
I was just trying to mess
So
with
how does the game actually play?
It's fun. It's a good game. It's it's a turn-based strategy game. It's a little weird because everything happens at the same time, and you don't actually get to choose your targets. It just is your character hits whoever's closest to them, or if there's multiple targets equidistant, then they just choose one. And it's an interesting little mechanic because it simplifies it. They were thinking a lot with a controller in mind, which is like a little bit disappointing, but also kind of totally fine because forcing simplicity on game design is not often a bad thing in my mind. It can usually create really cool new ideas, like a very approachable, easy to play turn-based strategy game.
My question is like, okay, I like that in theory, but I wonder, sustained over the length of whatever this game is, what kind of depth are you getting? Are there different unit types? Are there?
Yeah.
Clearly, you got Uzi guys.
Well, I mean, like, how differentiated are they in their behaviors?
So you recruit new units and you outfit your party, and then your party is customizable with, you can change, they all level up and stuff, and then you can change their weapon, what weapon they're using, their offhand thing, if it's a shield or not. You can customize the way they look. Like if they have a helmet and there's tons of different cosmetic items, you can change their hair if they don't have a helmet. You can change their names. It really seems like there is a lot of variance. Obviously, I won't know that until I've played more than 20 minutes of the game, but it seemed like they were setting it up for a lot of customization within your squad and how you want to play. There are different ranged units. There's axe throwers who, if they can attack melee, but then if you make them attack ranged, they also stun. It's a lot of interesting little things like that. So I think it's actually going to be a pretty deep game.
If your units die, are they dead permanently or just like out of the round, out of the match?
I actually don't know. I didn't ask, and it didn't occur to me. But
man.
Yeah, it might be. I doubt the main guy can die, because there is like a guy named Horatio that is your main character of the story. but it also didn't seem like his story mattered very much pretty quickly. Like, that beginning fight was Horatio protecting his house and his son from these bandits, and then the son and the house just get crushed by the giant space bear.
Oh,
and
shit.
then Horatio runs off to the city, and like that's his story. It's very strange, and I'm really excited to play more of it.
So the whole game's ultimately about getting revenge against this giant space bear.
It's not even the space bear, because the space bear is dead. It's against the announcer, or the voiceover guy, which is Stamper, and Horatio can hear him, and he'll be like, Horatio died to the bandits, because he's narrating the game. And then when Horatio doesn't die, he's like, I said Horatio died to the bandits. And then you like run off. And there's another time where Horatio's supposed to be a blueberry farmer, and he's like, and then Horatio gave all his blueberries to this one person, and Horatio like yells some gibberish obscenities, and he's like, fine, you'll regret it later. And like it's this weird like fourth wall breaking like counterplay. It's super cool. Another game that Tyler wanted me to show off, which Tyler played and really enjoyed, I enjoyed too, was a game called Shadow Warrior 2. I didn't ever play the first Shadow Warrior, but I saw him playing it, and I was kind of shocked by what I saw. It's this first-person shooter melee game, Asian-themed, where you're fighting lots of demons, but the game is just gorgeous, and then there's tons and tons of weapon variety and weapon customization, and it's all about just like having fun and killing things. It's like a very old school shooter that way. And you can use katanas, and there's machine guns, and then you can make the machine gun poison or electricity, and you can get new crafting pieces to do different things. It was way, way cooler than anything I was expecting.
This is visually, or just watching this.
Yeah, we're just mesmerized right now.
I'm actually sort of reminded of Bulletstorm.
I was going to say the exact same thing.
Yeah.
It has the same feeling of just like go ham on some stuff in the most delightful ways you can.
Yeah, and you have a dash button and a double jump, so you're moving really quickly, and it is similar to that feeling of Bulletstorm of just like have fun, kill things, and when you die, like you just respawn somewhere else and you've lost some money or something like that.
It's like real life.
And it's a custom engine. I was talking to the guys. This game is Wild Flying Hog is the developer. They were also the developer of the first game, and they were a developer of another game that I cannot remember the name of right now, and Tyler is probably in the chat getting mad at me for not remembering the name. And it's being published by Devolver. And the thing that actually Devolver said to us when we were at PAX is they were like, we're treating this like a AAA game because it looks like one. And the truth is, it's a homebrew engine that they made, and it looks like pretty much as good as some Unreal Engine games.
I was going to say, I thought it was Unreal.
It looks really good.
That chest. Is that a dick?
Yeah, it is.
Oh,
no, it's
Christ.
a demonic rod. It's also like a really foul-mouthed game. Like the tagline is like, "Who's ready for more Wang?" Because the main character of the first game was named Wang.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's apparently it's a little bit childish in that sense, but it still just looks like a very cool game. Hard Reset. Thank you, Tyler, in the chat.
Okay.
Hard Reset is it.
I remember Hard Reset, yeah.
Yeah, it's just some crazy cool game play that I just did not expect at all. So that was neat.
Already looking better than Duke Nukem Forever in this game of foul-mouthed throwback games.
Give it 15 years, and then we'll see.
So if Shadow Warrior 2 is in development for 15 years, they'll probably find a way to screw it up.
Were there any games that you guys saw were going to be at PAX, or that I covered that you would want to hear about? I saw a lot.
One I just saw, I think Tyler put it up this morning or yesterday, from some ex-Witcher devs called Seven.
Yeah.
And it looks like, are you pulling up the video?
I'm going to pull up the video.
Sweet.
Yeah.
The basic idea I got, maybe you have a better idea, is that it's a top-down sort of, not exactly, an isometric, open worldish, or at least big worldish stealth thievery game with some role-playing mechanics or something like that. I didn't really get an idea of how that would work, but I was super into the idea of its perspective, because I think some of the best stealth I've played in recent years has been not first person. It's been like Mark of the Ninja,
Mark of the Ninja is so damn good.
Yeah. So it got me excited thinking about, okay, here's a beautiful isometric game with some role-playing stuff in a semi-open world, and these guys can experiment with how they show you're being stealthy or not, or they can like streamline it in some interesting ways that isn't beholden to being in first person or third person or something like that. So I got excited about that. Plus the fact that it's from some of the Witcher's folks.
Yeah, I haven't really looked into the game at all, other than knowing it's from people who worked on The Witcher, which is enough to get me interested at least.
Your interest.
Yeah.
And it just looks gorgeous as well.
Trying to pull up a trailer.
It's all good. When I think of like those isometric games, I don't really, I think of Diablo and stuff like that, and I think of it sort of having a there's minimal focus on it, the fidelity necessarily, but yeah, look at this. There's layers and layers to these environments, and there's like a bunch of NPCs everywhere. It just got me excited.
This kind of looks like a tracking shot, like over a game that would maybe be first person or third person, rather than a top down game, or not top down, but farther pulled back camera.
Yeah, and it got me excited to think about like how they make stealth. They make an interesting stealth level in this from this perspective, because there's a lot you could communicate with that much, in your on your screen at one given point. So yeah, and it could be fun to do some parkour if they get the parkour down. Looks
third person parkour like that, like third person pulled out parkour.
Yeah.
It's something I haven't really seen much of.
But it looks really, really neat. I don't really.
Yeah, it kind of looks like if somebody made Assassin's Creed, but really far out third person isometric.
And it's funny you say that, because like I watching that video, I said, okay, maybe this will be, these folks have an opportunity to capitalize on what I thought Assassin's Creed was going to be, without so
burn.
Yeah. We'll see.
There's some damn good Assassin's Creed games. They just made too many.
Let's not go.
What about you, Wes? Was there anything you were interested in?
I mostly ignored PAX over the weekend.
Cool.
Honestly, Pyre is definitely one of the big ones that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. I love that Supergiant will just work in just completely dark until I think they did the exact same thing with Transistor. It had been a couple years since Bastion. They had, in that time, announced some ports of Bastion to different platforms, hadn't talked at all about their next game, and then they're like, yeah, this is what it is. It's coming out in a few months, or 6 months or something. Nice. And it seems like they've kind of done the same thing with Pyre, where they're like, okay, we have a whole fleshed out concept for this game. It's, half done. It's playable at this event in 2 days. I hope you like it.
Yeah. And I'll definitely tell you kind of how I thought about Pyre, because I did get to play the whole PAX demo. But first, one thing I do want to talk with you.
Divinity?
Yes.
Hey.
I want to talk about Divinity 2. So I'm going to pull up the gameplay from a match I played against the CEO of Larian Studios.
Oh, yeah.
So this is immediately one of the new mechanics of the game, which is they added. I'd played Divinity Original Sin 2 before, but they added a bunch of new combat mechanics to the game in this build that I'd never seen before. And this one is actually height. So if you're higher up on people in the new game, you get increased range and increased damage. They also added things like shields. So those familiar with the first game, you can see right above their red health bar, there's a gray bar and a blue bar. And the gray bar is a physical damage shield, and the blue bar is a magical damage shield.
Cool.
And when you have, and so that basically takes those drain those types of damage first. And as long as you have some of those shields up, you are immune to physical effects or immune to magical effects. So if you have a physical shield up, you can't get knocked down until it runs out. And if you have a magical shield up, you can't get stunned or frozen or anything until it runs out. Which really changes some of the staple strategies that I had in the first game, which is just like perma-stun, perma-knockdown enemies and make sure they never get up.
Or you just want to do those things as quickly as possible, right? Like you want to light somebody on fire or poison them immediately so that will take over during the fight.
Yeah, and you can actually, the other interesting thing, which I can jump ahead and show, is they added blessed and cursed surfaces in this game. Let me see if I can't find the moment. Essentially, there was always blessing and cursing as an effect in the other game, but it was just kind of like hit chance. And now what you can do is actually, if there's fire on the ground, that's cursed fire on the ground, which means it does extra damage. And you can, if you're in fire, and this is what Sven did pretty shortly here, you can actually bless the fire, and suddenly it will heal you instead of doing damage to you. So he casts Bless on the ground twice, and it turns into Holy Fire, and suddenly the trap that I had just put on him to like hurt him is now his benefit.
Why twice?
Because you first it was cursed fire, so he first had to
like
bless it to make it
neutral?
normal fire, and then bless it again to make it healing fire.
Okay.
And then one of his characters caught fire with the holy fire and was constantly being healed by the flames that I had put on him.
That makes me want to say like that's super cool, and holy shit, it's too much.
It
Like,
wasn't
at the
too
sa-
much
at the
actually.
same time.
It was a surprisingly okay amount of complexity. But the thing that I came away from, a lot of people who never played Divinity Original Sin 1 don't really know what I'm talking about right now. And first of all, go play that game because it's so good.
Fantastic game.
The enhanced edition is just totally worth it in my opinion. But the reason it's important, and you can appreciate this even if you never played the first game, is these were changes that I had no idea I wanted from the game. These were things I had no idea. I never was like, oh man, I really wish they added height to Divinity 1. And now I'm playing this and I'm like, I don't think I can go back and live without it. Like, it makes so much sense to be in the game. And it's just, it was really smart. They're just making all these really, really, really smart changes to the original Sin battle formula. And I really, really appreciate it.
And my Final Fantasy Tactics senses are just like exploding right now, thinking about that kind of stuff. I'm curious about the shield system, what influences like the amount of hit points or like strength of those things. Is that just a static thing for everybody, or is it like actually having a shield item equipped makes your shield much stronger, that kind of thing?
I don't know specifically. They didn't go into the details of that because we didn't actually get to outfit our characters. It was we grabbed some pre-made characters basically for the PvP mode. And one of the concerns also that I heard from a lot of people in our comments was like, man, I hope all this multiplayer footage doesn't mean they don't care about the single player anymore. And one of the things that Sven told me while we were there was they're doing this thing where there's 5 different races you can choose from: human, like skeleton person, basically, undead, dwarf, elf, and lizard person. I don't know what the name is, but it's kind of a lizardy, dragony thing.
It's my jam.
And then on top of that, you choose a backstory for every person, but it's not a backstory like you think of in other RPG games like that. Like, they're going to have dozens of backstories. One of their Kickstarter things was, we'll keep adding backstories to it. So they're going to have for each race dozens and dozens of different backstories that you can choose from that are relatively fleshed out, and every single person, depending on what your backstory is, has different unique dialogue and NPC for every NPC in the game.
It sounds like a lot of work.
And every NPC in the game also talks to them differently depending on their backstory. So if your backstory is that you're like a countess, a guard is going to have a completely different conversation with you than if you're any other character or any other backstory. It's just this huge level of story building depth to it.
In
that
other
I can't even
news,
fathom.
Divinity is 2 hours long. By the way.
It almost worries me. I mean, it sounds amazing if they can pull it off effectively. And they did not to that scale, but I mean, Divinity Original Sin 1 definitely has depth in that way in other areas. Just the ability to kill, any NPC in the game and still navigate through the story to completion. So I think they're really experienced in doing that kind of designing that kind of flexibility. Yeah. But it makes me think about like comparing it to The Witcher 3, which is a very different RPG, right? But you have this one defined character, and there are already enough variations in the way you interact with people in just within that game, starting from square one, and then the stuff that you could optionally import from Witcher 2, that is just a massive amount of writing required to take each little branch to its own conclusion.
Yeah.
And that's starting from a fairly singular starting point, not from a starting point that's 22 times X number of races wide.
Yeah.
That's really crazy to think about.
It's just insane. It's really insane. And I think they said that Sven, I mean, obviously he's not going to be like, this isn't working, right? He's not going to undersell it. But he was saying that they were, like, it was really coming together. Like, it was, he wasn't, lying. He was saying it's an insane amount of work. And he actually said they thought they could cheat a little bit. They thought that there maybe was, like, some dialogue that they could always keep the same, that were just a few lines here and there, and they just said, it doesn't work like that. We really need to go in and do it. And luckily they haven't put a date on it, so they're just gonna do it. They're gonna keep working at it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident in Larian. I think they're in a really good place just as a studio right now. So last night I watched GameSpot's series on Overwatch. I don't know if you guys have watched that.
Not yet, but it looked awesome.
Danny O'Dwyer went down to Blizzard and talked to a good chunk of the dev team. And the first video is all about how they started making Overwatch out of the corpse of Titan, which was their huge MMO project that was eventually canceled. They wouldn't really talk about any specifics with Titan, but they did talk a lot about just how difficult it was for this team of people who had immense success with World of Warcraft, and some of them with previous games at Blizzard. They kind of couldn't fail at that point. They could do no wrong. And then they worked on this project for years and years and years and eventually killed it. And they talked about just like how hard that was on morale. And coming out of that and then making Overwatch was super gratifying for them because they got this positive response. And I think Larian has kind of had the opposite arc recently, where they struggled so hard to get Divinity Original Sin made. They were borrowing money. They were just like at the end of their rope every time. And if that game had bombed, they would have been toast, right? But it was so successful and people loved it so much. And then for them to do the Kickstarter for Original Sin 2 and get an even better response than they did the first time, they are like on cloud 9 right now. They already have a really established engine that they're just adding more stuff to. And I think they are in the best possible place they could be to make that game really great.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what they do. That was actually one of the reasons, now that I'm just remembering, that they even did a Kickstarter, was not even to, like, they said, we're going to make this game, but the more money we get, the more we can flesh out these stories and these plot lines and stuff like that, which is cool.
Yeah, so I hope they pull it off, because
yeah, me too.
I really love the first game. Last thing on Divinity, so you played a decent amount of the Enhanced Edition?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about it, because I only played through the vanilla version, which I really, really liked.
And I just got my hands on it. So
Yeah,
I'm a first timer.
It adds. You mean compared to the first game or to the original?
Compared to the original version, yeah.
It adds some different items, like grenades become a big part of it, where you can. The simplest form of that is a water balloon, where it's just a little bit of a thing you lob, and then it creates a surface, right, somewhere. So you can have like poison grenades and flame grenades, and it basically is just like a mobile barrel, kind of, if you think about it that way.
Without needing spells or something.
Yeah, exactly. It's also just prettier. They made everything voice acted, I believe. They reduxed some of the abilities, rebalanced some things. I didn't get to the end yet, but apparently they changed the entire end of the game, because I'm sorry if spoilers for people, but the end of you're not going to play the first version ever if you buy the game new now. You're only going to be playing the Enhanced Edition. The final boss of the first game was this just big dragon fight, and then you killed the dragon, and the credits rolled, and
immediately,
and it was like super like, okay. And the Enhanced Edition apparently fleshes that out a little bit more, but I don't know what that is specifically. It just was a lot of really, really smart changes where they probably didn't have the money to do that the first time around, and they just made it better.
Cool. I forgot I know Original Sin 2's battle system is an evolution on the Enhanced Edition, but I forgot kind of where that line was, like where the changes stopped for the first game's remaster and where it began for what they're doing with Original Sin 2.
Let's talk about Pyre, though.
Pyre.
Because I really, really want to talk about Pyre. And there's a reason that I broke this out into a separate topic with its own title and the graphic and everything, is because
So fancy.
I really want to talk about Pyre.
Okay.
If you guys are interested in hearing more about our PAX East coverage, I'll drop a link into the chat, but you can always go to pcgamer.com /PAX East 2016, and that has all of our coverage, or you can just go to youtube.com/PCGamer and find all our videos there. But Pyre is one of those videos, and like you said, Supergiant Games, the people who made Bastion and Transistor, announced this game 2 days before PAX started, and suddenly they had a booth there and it was playable. And there were people waiting in line to play that game for 3 hours.
Damn.
It was one of the most popular small booths at the entire event.
They've developed quite a following, and
They have.
deservedly so.
Yep.
Thank you, Chris86, who said, a lot of great video interviews, enjoyed them a lot already. Thank you.
You did a great job.
Thank you. Well,
Good job, Tom.
Let's just,
And Tom.
And you didn't get sick.
I barely
It's the
got
dream.
sick. Yeah, that is the dream. But I'm going to pull up a video to talk over of Pyre. This is actually a video from IGN, because they were the only folk who were able to record the demo from PAX. But it's really a game, I'm sorry for the podcast listeners, because you're going to miss some, because it is by far the most beautiful game that Supergiant has ever made. And Bastion and Transistor were gorgeous games.
Yeah.
But this game is just beautiful. It's more vibrant, and it's just incredible. I talked to the creative director, the art director, Gen Z, at Supergiant at PAX, and she said she thought this was the year that everyone was going to find out she was actually a hack. Because, like, it's the classic artist not being proud of their own stuff sort of syndrome. But, like, this game is just, it's unbelievable how pretty it is. But they announced the game, and nobody really knew what it was. Like, they didn't
It was really hard to tell.
Their trailer didn't make it clear intentionally, I guess.
Very intentionally.
What it played like.
They want people to discover it a little bit on their own, and so because of that, I won't give too much away, but kind of what it felt like to play was this weird combination between RPG Oregon Trail and Rocket League. And basically what that meant is you can see you have this wagon, and the plot of the game, very, very top level, just so I won't spoil anything, is you're in this purgatory-like world where people are banished to, and you're trying to escape.
This looks like a pretty sweet place to be banished.
Yeah, it's kind of
honestly.
beautiful.
The
But you're trying to escape back to the real world. And to do that, you have to compete in these things called rites. They're these rituals. And they're basically a competition, and whoever wins the competition by completing the most rites or whatever gets to escape. And the game plays like Oregon Trail in that you have a certain number of days to get to the next rite, and you have branching paths where you get to choose which way you want to go as you go. And then each night you have food that you have to, every once in a while you have to gather resources to get more food to travel farther. Or you can study this book a little more, and then you can have these conversations like we're having right now, where he's having a conversation with this kind of dog creature named Rucky. And in this conversation, he's got this twiddly mustache, right? And he asks, like, what do you think of my mustache? I don't know if I like it. And you can either say, it looks perfectly fine, he might be better off without it. And if you say, you might be better off without it, then he's like, I'll be right back. He goes and shaves the mustache, and then he gets, like, he permanently doesn't have a mustache anymore, and he gets a boost to one of his stats. So it's like, it's this RPG game where you're talking with your party members, and you're leveling them up, and you're advancing them, and stuff like that. But when you actually get into one of the rites, which I will pull forward to, it's a very different game than anything they've made. And it's basically a 3v3 ball game where you have your three characters, and you can get a bigger party, so you don't just have these three, but you have a very big character, a medium-sized character, and a very tiny character. And there's a big, gorgeous flame on either side of the map called the Pyre.
Hey, it's the name of the game.
Yeah, there you go. And the Pyre has 10 life, basically. And if you get the ball into the flame, into the Pyre, the enemy's Pyre, it takes some of that life away, depending on which character you put in. So your biggest character is worth 3, but is the slowest. Your smallest character is worth 1, but it's the fastest. And every character has an aura around them. So if another character touches that aura, they die. But your aura goes away when you have the ball. So that's the game, is you're trying to, and you can only move one person at a time. You can only move whoever has the ball at a time. So you try to get the ball and then like plow the road with your aura and then pass the ball to somebody that can get into the fire, and there you go. And then you've taken off some points. And you try to get their Pyre down to 0. And really what it is it's a sport. You know, it's kind of hard to call it anything else than a sport because it's a ball game. Like, it just kind of is. And while the game is gorgeous and the world they've built is incredible and weird and unique and cool, and the Oregon Trail kind of part of the game was super compelling and I wanted to play more of it, the actual ball game part was kind of meh. Like, it wasn't bad, but it was just sort of like,
So
okay.
in real time, you're pressing a button to switch between characters?
Yeah.
Is that right?
You're either switching between characters or passing the ball to your characters.
That's what I watched this video earlier, and that's what initially turned me. I don't want to say turned me off completely, but had me concerned was the kind of stilted nature of playing this kind of game. I would rather play this like in conjunction with other people. It looks like.
My gut tells me that they will announce a co-op mode for it, or a PvP mode for it.
But that really does change. That entirely changes the feel and style of the game, right? Because when you're playing this, like, you call it a sport, and it certainly is that by objective and presentation and everything. But if you're trying to control 3 characters at once and use them in a coordinated fashion, like, that is a strategy game.
Yeah.
You know, that is a very different thing than a Rocket League or something where you control a, individual character on the playing field. And playing that in co-op, I feel like would make it a sport. You know, at that point, you are in control of your character. You are passing to other players and using your abilities or whatever. But this seems more like, a unusual strategy game to me, and I don't know if that's a good or bad thing necessarily.
Yeah, I guess in that sense it is. It is very much like a weird mix of, like, it's kind of like a weird RTS.
So I guess where it succeeds or fails is in, as a player, as you get better at it, to what extent can you quickly switch between characters and really utilize, 2 or 3 of them almost simultaneously.
And I wonder personally, like, is every match in the same arena, or are there different kinds of obstacles? Like, how much do stats come into it? I saw different characters with different speed. Maybe they have different passing abilities. Like,
yeah, I'm not sure entirely. And I think there's up to 8 characters you can get that will all be unique. And then there's a level up system where you can, like, I unlocked an ability while I was playing to make my big person, who's usually really slow, have 2 dashes instead of 1, so they can, like, dash a little farther.
Was that in a single match?
No. That was a permanent upgrade.
okay.
And then also as you level them up, you, like, learn more about who they are and stuff. So that story part of it comes in. It's just, like, I just don't know how I feel about it. Like, because when it comes down to it, the defining thing is that part of it was not nearly as much fun as the combat in Bastion was. And if they had made this same game, but with just an arena brawler with Bastion's combat, I probably would like it more.
So yeah, I thought Bastion's combat was decent. Like, it was surface level fun. It was good enough to carry me through that game, but I didn't think it was really anything special. Thought it was kind of like generic action RPG combat. I thought Transistor's combat was incredible.
Well, then maybe Transistors, right? I haven't
some
played
people,
nearly as much Transistor.
people like Bastion to different degrees. I loved that game, but the combat was kind of just that was the component that got me from point A to point B, and I enjoyed playing it, but I didn't think there was a whole lot to it. And I thought Transistor's combat was some of the coolest kind of hybrid action strategy stuff that I've ever played.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's, like, untold levels of what, like, late game Pyre or mid game Pyre could look like.
Totally. And the variety of the game is going to be a huge part of it.
Yeah, because I like you, my concern is, okay, I'm doing this Oregon Trail stuff, getting to know my characters and seeing new parts of the world and having this incredible journey, but if that's punctuated by kind of the samey arena sports battles throughout, 10 hours, 15 hours. Is that going to be enough, or like how many layers does that have, and how deep can that kind of strategy go?
And that's the big factor there, right? Because
Yeah.
this was a demo, and this was the first two. I only got to play the first two fights of the game or whatever, which are basically the teach you how to play fights.
Yeah.
And they were super easy. And if the variety of the game and the difficulty of the game increases and forces you to actually learn good new strategies, then that could just be a super compelling experience.
Yeah.
Like, it totally could be. But what I played there was kind of okay, is fine, which is a little bit of a shame because I like what's outside of that
Right.
more than anything else Supergiant's ever done. I think really the world that they built and the art style of it is, oh my god, it's so good.
I'm getting echoes of Banner Saga.
Yeah.
In a lot of that.
No, it's interestingly like the opposite situation I found Transistor, where I thought the combat was just fucking awesome, but the world, they built a really cool world and then left it completely empty.
Yep.
And didn't tell you much about it. And I had thematically part of the point of the game was the city's falling apart, everybody's gone, but it just made walking through it just here's some gorgeous art, but there's not really anything else there to latch onto, which is what I was ultimately disappointed by. But I could play that combat all day, and it sounds like this could be an opposite situation. But I don't know, Greg Kasavin is a smart guy, and I think he's a pretty big StarCraft fan, or was at some point in time, so I wouldn't be surprised to see the Pyre sport escalate into some pretty crazy micro control demanded of you to really excel at it.
I hope so. I really do, because it wasn't. I don't mean to say that it wasn't good. I just didn't think it was a super very fun.
Well, that's part of good.
I guess it is, but what I mean is it seemed like it knew what it was doing, and it seemed like it knew what it wanted to be. I feel like they executed what they wanted to do successfully, and I just don't know if I like what they were trying to do is the problem. And maybe they'll hear some of this criticism, or maybe they've already addressed it, and there's more later that we just haven't seen in the 20-minute demo that I got to play, because I only did get to play a 20-minute demo. But at the end of the day, I just want to see more. I really just want to play it more and see what else they're doing and stuff like that.
Did they say when we can expect?
No, they didn't.
Okay.
I think they said early 2017. I think it's not going to be a while, or not going to be for a while. Not years, right? Because like Wes was saying, they like having a complete product that you can then play and then comes out pretty soon.
Yeah.
I think it'll be within a year.
Cool.
I don't know. I want more of it. Is all I know. But what do you guys feel, real quickly, I want to ask, what do you guys feel about developers, this and pit people have this trend of developers who are known for a kind of a style of gameplay pretty drastically switching that style up? Because Pit People is a turn-based strategy game from people who only made side-scrolling brawlers, and this is a kind of, Greg Kasavin described it as a fantasy road trip game with a weird strategy combat game from a developer that's mainly made action-y games.
I think it's, I don't know, I don't think I can speak to the behemoth as well, but I think for Supergiant, it's a lot of gaining confidence and experience in addition to just having the money to be able to to not just immediately have to be working on your next project that needs to hit these things that are guaranteed to sell, and make you X return. With Transistor, they definitely took kind of what were their foundational style points, with the VO and with kind of the style world, and said, okay, how can we make the combat 10 times deeper in this game? And so it had kind of the same, the music added the same thing to the game, the VO added the same thing to the game, but they took probably the weakest element of Bastion and just went layers and layers and layers deeper on it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you do on your sophomore effort, and it was really successful, right? So now they have 2 games that a lot of people loved, and they have the money, I imagine, to work for a few years on their next game, and they kind of smashed it out of the park twice. And I think at that point, you go, okay, I think I know how to make video games now. What are all these other ideas I've had rattling around in my head that I've wanted to make for 15 years, and how can I, with the knowledge I now have, how do I turn that into a real game?
Yeah. I'm not sure what to make of Pyre. I'm excited for it though, and I think they're going a really, really cool direction, and I just hope that I actually enjoy the direction they're going. Basically,
it's exciting to not exactly know the shape of a game.
Yeah, exactly.
So
and they want that. I think they want to have people discover it. But let's move on to probably violent, gory shooters. We don't actually know for sure, but Blackroom, which is John Romero's next game, maybe, if the Kickstarter makes it. Unfortunately, we don't know fully if the Kickstarter is going to make it yet, because it's at $120,000 after 2 days, asking for $700,000.
Which sounds
pretty...
It's a lot of money, but it is not nearly as fast as some game developer or some game Kickstarters make it. So
it's not fast at all. No.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much, if you look back at all of the big projects over the past year, like the ukuleles, the Bloodstained, and like Shenmue, those all either hit their goals, or I don't remember specifically what their goals were, but hit $1 million in a day or two.
Yeah.
And I think
this did not do that.
The Blackroom Kickstarter, I think, has a few things against it. Like so I think Bloodstained is a really good comparison. The developer, the lead designer, Igarashi, of a bunch of those Castlevania games, he made like 8 of those games or something. He made a lot of those games. He proved he could make them. Many of those games were made on really small budgets, having to recycle lots of assets, that kind of thing. There was a pent-up demand for games of that type, especially coming from people with a proven track record to make them. And they ran a really good campaign for it. Like, they kind of led up to the campaign. People knew it was coming. They had a really strong, like, visual pitch to go with it. They had a fun video. They clearly had this vision in place for something that a lot of people wanted. That he specifically could deliver. That is, that's the pitch anyway, right? His game could end up flopping or whatever, who knows. But I feel like with Blackroom, John Romero was obviously pivotal in the design of Doom and Wolfenstein 3D and, like, the foundational first-person shooters. A lot of people other than John Romero have made great first-person shooters in the past 20 years.
Yeah.
John Romero is not the only person who can make a new throwback to the 90s style shooter and make it good. And I think that, on top of the last game he's coming off of with his name really attached to it, is Daikatana. Like, I don't know that he's been on a big game since then. His studio has done, I think they do mobile stuff. They do, some interesting little games, and I know they've worked on canceled projects, but nothing that makes you say, oh yeah, I have total confidence in this based on the last thing they made. And the Kickstarter pitch video's kind of flat, kind of bad. So I think it's going to struggle. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to make it?
Yeah, I think it'll make 700,000. And I don't think I know 700,000 is not nearly enough to make that game. I think they said in their Kickstarter that they have funding. They have the funding.
Yeah.
I think it'll kind of squeak by, but yeah, I don't think it's not going to explode. It would have exploded already.
It's interesting because I actually think I have faith in it. Like, I agree with you completely with everything you've said, but, like, I think John Romero might know what he's doing this time.
Oh, I have I have some doubts, but I don't disbelieve that he could make a good game and that this project could be good. I just think the things I was talking about are kind of the reasons why the Kickstarter has gotten kind of a slow start.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I like what he's spouting, though, of modability and community involvement. Probably the reason he wants to be on Kickstarter is because of that sort of thing. It's really interesting to see Blackroom come out, or the Kickstarter for Blackroom start at the same time that everybody's been bad-mouthing the new Doom. That's a really interesting kind of contrast to watch going on live.
Yeah.
Especially with John Romero making new Doom wads at the same time for the original Doom. It's just, it's very interesting. It's all like, it's him trying to tap in to a desire that has been immediately let down by the Doom open beta when people played it, or the Doom beta when people played it.
Was that kind of the unanimous opinion on it? Because I haven't played since. I haven't played a period actually.
The most positive thing I've seen or heard from Doom was it was fun, like in that tone,
With
right?
a shrug.
Yeah, with a shrug. It was. I haven't talked to anybody who was like the Doom beta was amazing. I've only talked to people who either were like I thought it was kind of a letdown or like it was okay. It was a fine arena shooter. I'm sure there are people out there who loved it.
James?
I cannot get behind this project, like, period.
Really?
Period.
Blackroom, you mean?
No, yeah. What you touched on it, Wes. Like, John Romero certainly is a very influential, like, developer. I don't mean to undermine his skill sets or anything or his influence, but if you know, when someone pitches, if anyone pitches a cyberpunk holodeck-based arena shooter in 2016, what does that excite you at all? Like, I mean, like, should it? I feel like his acolytes have been making and designing and riffing and iterating on first-person shooter design for like years and years and years and years. So it's I'm not angry that Blackroom exists. I'm just like I'm disappointed to see that what he seems to be pitching is so safe for him. If Romero and co came back and said, okay, we're going to do what we did, maybe not, like revolutionize the first-person shooter in 2016, because what the fuck does that mean? But if they were to stretch their muscles a bit and like pitch something a little more out there or less, not so cookie cutter in terms of what they've done before, it feels like, I don't know, I believe it'll be fine and I believe it'll be good. Rush has been making great albums for so long, right? Rush is a great fucking band. But, their new album, Clockwork Angels, it's Rush. It's fine. It's great. It's Rush, though. And I'm not surprised that, like...
I love this analogy.
That the Kickstarter hasn't been blowing the fuck up,
Yeah.
Because...
No, that's definitely fair.
It's more Rush.
I agree with you. I didn't like the hologram, like the holodeck theme to it. It just seems kind of lazy. It seems like we want to send our game a lot of places and we can't pick a theme for it, so we'll just let you go anywhere.
The few they listed, I think, were like pirate galleons,
and a castle.
Part of me thinks like, oh, look at Overwatch and how they managed to have all these crazy disparate characters and stuff feel like they fit in this one cohesive setting.
Yeah.
But then I also think like, okay, what was one of my favorite shooters I've ever played? Time Splitters 2, a game that did not give a shit about having a cohesive setting across its characters and map selection. I mean, you had, you did the Aztec Temple, you had the labs, you had the Arctic setting, you had like everything you can think of, throw it in there. You got monkeys, you got zombies, you got soldiers, you got nurses, you got just like all this different stuff. And that game was fun, and it didn't matter that none of that stuff. It had like the time travel excuse for that, but that was totally irrelevant to the multiplayer, right? But that game was great anyway.
For sure, and I don't think like Blackroom is bad because it is what it is for its pitch. Yeah, I think that opens it up to being super interesting and like Time Splitters. But I just think as a pitch, it doesn't do anything for me, especially because I don't know, it's incredibly like surface level cliched. What they needed, I think, was I want to see a fucking gun designed by Romero in 2016. Like I want to see
absolutely
what that is. Like if they had just some rudimentary
4 animated GIFs of awesome fire modes with a reload animation could have like gotten them $500,000.
Especially, because I think some of the takes we've had in semi-agreements around the office is that Doom's guns are just kind of bland and like, or the new Doom, excuse me, are fairly just like, oh, here's that gun again.
So this was an image from their Kickstarter page.
Sure.
Which was concept guns that are like these neon versions of them. And I'll read some out. It's the Black Hole Bomb, the Recode, which looks like kind of some sort of nuke launcher or something, the Hawksaw, which is like a laser chainsaw, the Hoxalite, which is kind of just a very generic-y machine gun, and then the Glocksoul, which is a Glock. And he has some descriptions, like one-line descriptions of these guns as well, where he says, basic handgun for the Glocksoul, you know, the Black Hole Bomb creating microsingularity in a room, pulling everything into it within a radius for 10 seconds. So he's got some ideas, but you're right, there was not a they clearly haven't made anything beyond like a rough prototype of the game, if that.
I mean, like, okay, for a scratchy group of, you know, youngsters working out of their dorm room, I could sort of expect not to see a lot coming out of a fucking
man.
Well, John Romero is not living in a dorm room and working out of a dorm room. I expected to see something like
I did too.
And I'd rather see them like come back with that, or at least like at some time during the campaign show us something. It might be impossible at the rate they're going, or at the place the project's in right now.
Yeah, I would love to see John Romero make a shooter in, you know, the end of 2017, 2018, whatever, that feels, you know, at once nostalgic and like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
You know, in like nostalgic in its theming and its movement and stuff like that, but refreshing in like, holy shit, these weapons are really cool. No one has designed a gun that you know, shoots this way, feels this way before. But it's hard to get too excited for the Kickstarter in its current form, when there's like not really a taste of that at all. There's no hint of that.
Yeah. So
they did a live stream that I didn't watch the day that they announced the Kickstarter, and I think they revealed a few more details about guns and stuff on that, according to Variable in our chat. Did either of you, real quickly jumping back to theme, did either of you play Painkiller ever?
a little bit briefly, yeah.
Shooter from People Can Fly, who then went on to make Bulletstorm.
Painkiller's big thing was bolting people to the wall, right? With
so satisfying.
Painkiller's big thing was also just kill tons of things, right? It was just a pure fun run through a level, shooting things and killing things.
I think I played the demo of Painkiller. Was the demo a level with like a giant walking around who could just step on you because his foot was like way taller than you?
I think that might have been one of them.
I believe I played the demo of Painkiller.
But that was another game I wanted to bring up when you mentioned Time Splitters. It was another game where they were kind of just said, fuck it, we'll go anywhere. And they did. They brought that game to churches and snowy bridges and everywhere under the sun. That was like a ton of different environments in it.
I've never really been a Serious Sam player, but I think Serious Sam may be a similar thing. Maybe you're fighting aliens the whole time. I can't remember. But I think that was another game that's, it has a very old school sensibility, kind of tongue in cheek. Just kill tons of monsters is the big thing with ridiculously over the top weapons. I don't know. Blackroom could be one of those games, but it's hard to say right now.
Twitch subscriber Kunifu says, James dropping all the truth bombs today.
Sorry, I've been a little grumpy about this just because I was excited about the seeing that stupid trailer with the Star Wars thing they did.
It was really fun.
It was great.
I
say stupid endearingly.
I
loved seeing Romero's hair spill out of that cloak.
I will totally agree. It did disappoint me that teaser for the Kickstarter trailer that was like a jokey Star Wars trailer was better made than the actual Kickstarter trailer.
Yeah, so I just expected more, and this is something I'm totally into. I love shooters, don't get me wrong, but I just want to, I was hoping to see something substantial.
You want it to be blown away by a John Romero game.
Who doesn't? Like he's like we said, he's certainly not the best first-person shooter designer ever made or ever who's ever lived. Yeah, but he has a signature, and it would be lovely to see that signature like on display.
Yeah, all I know is I really want Blackroom's Kickstarter to succeed.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily, like, nothing in the Kickstarter, like you said, nothing in the Kickstarter has given me any indication that it's going to be this revolutionary game. But I think that if he gets to make the game that he wants to make, it'll be a cool game, and I would like to play
That's
it.
all we can ask for.
Yeah.
Is, you know.
Suck it down, James. Suck it down.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with James's grumpiness today, though. But let's move on. Let's see what you guys in the Twitch chat think about James's grumpiness, besides Knifu. If you have a question for us today, please tag us with @PCGamer in the Twitch chat. We will take your questions about anything on your mind in this week in PC gaming or beyond. If you want to talk about Blackroom, what I saw at PAX East, Pyre, anything in the world, you name it. And if you're watching on YouTube or listening on iTunes, you're always welcome to join us. Twitch.tv/PCGamer, 1 p.m. on Wednesdays now, not Tuesdays.
Wednesday.
It's been that way for a while now, so you should figure it out. And once again, if you are a podcast listener getting this far in the episode, thank you very much for dealing with our technical difficulties lately. We should have everything cleared up. Once again, always go to pcgamer.com/podcast. Click on the top post to comment on that article on this week's show and let us know if you have any comments or if it's not working still or if it is working or if you just want to say, hey, we are always there. I read those comments daily. Thank you very much. And we will see what people have to ask. Hey, Kunifu just resubscribed for 2 months.
Hey,
Thank you.
thanks, man.
2 months in a row. Okay.
Tom,
Variable says he's having one of those days too.
Tom, I have a question.
I feel you.
What's
I
your
feel you,
question,
Variable.
Wes?
If you're grumpy on the podcast, should you be required to make the grumpy cat face while you're being grumpy?
There it is. He's got a good grumpy cat face.
That's pretty good, actually.
I got a good ass frown. I'll tell
Yeah.
you what. I practiced.
For those of you who might have noticed, we got some little Enter the Gungeon plushies up there that I really love, and I'm very glad that they're holding hands.
Bullet people.
We're going to hopefully redesign the set a little bit soon, put some new things on. We also got this Warframe guy pretty recently right next to Coconut Monkey. Let's take some questions, though. Kunifu asks, talking Doom, did you guys catch the leaked Doom story trailer?
Yeah.
And did it help reignite your excitement for its release after the lackluster multiplayer beta? I didn't watch it. James, what did you think of that?
Well, I don't want to spoil what it has, but it reveals some things briefly that it haven't been shown off in the other coverage of the game, and it excited me or intrigued me. I was more excited about the single player of that game anyway, but also curious to see like how is this going to be an actual story? Are they going to treat it like a real campaign with levels and like characters? It seems that's the case, and it has a killer. I don't know if they revealed it before. Cover of the original theme, just so sick. So it got me excited and intrigued by what kind of layers the campaign might have and how far it might go with that. Yeah, it looks cool.
If you haven't seen it, it's on our site as of this moment. I think it's the top of the page. I'll probably change if you're listening to the podcast version, but you should be able to find it on PC Gamer if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, so it looks cool.
It's got a little throwback to the original cover as well.
Yeah.
pretty cool.
So it's definitely a play on your nostalgia, but I'll let it slide.
Doom has to be. To
Yeah,
some
absolutely.
extent,
I mean,
right?
it's an agreement you're making.
Private Dancer says, never lost excitement. Doom is a single-player game to me, so multiplayer is backseat. I'm more excited about the single-player Snap Map, and so this might be what people needed to remind them of that, because I think that's a similar sentiment to other people other people have. That is
For sure.
All right, let's see. Mildo says, why all the hate for Doom? I think it's right on the mark from what I played during the beta. What are your thoughts on Doom and if it can survive as a marquee shooter in a modern age of shooters? Did either of you guys play the beta?
Briefly. I mean, like, I kind of echo a lot of what's being said around the office. It's not necessarily a bad multiplayer shooter. It's just not significantly unique or like not filling a new niche or anything that hasn't already existed for a while. So, I mean, it's not that it can't succeed or won't. It's just that it's not outstanding in any particular way from what we've seen so far. So
Yeah.
I haven't played it, so I can't comment. I'm looking forward to the single player. My guess is, I don't know. In general, I only will make room in my life for like one game that I'm playing regularly with friends or competitively, you know, online, and I can't see a world in which that is Doom and not Overwatch, or you know, even something, even something, you know, a TF2 or Lawbreakers, or you know, just anything that has more team focus built into it to, you know, want me to play that game with my friends. I think I haven't played Doom, so I'm not sure what the multiplayer will feel like for me. But as much as I love the feeling of classic arena shooters, and I don't care about like aesthetic upgrades for my characters and XP unlocks that, you know, have dominated like the Modern Warfare design for the past 8 years or whatever, I'm much more interested in something with cool team dynamic stuff like Overwatch than I am going back to a throwback Doom.
with you.
Because if I'm doing that, I'd rather play the new Unreal Tournament because it's real.
So
feels real good.
It's nice.
Real quick, Variable just subscribed, so thank you, Variable. It says, great discussion, guys. Been subscribed to the magazine since 1994.
Hell.
Damn, son.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Tom wasn't even alive then.
That's not true. I was
alive?
just,
I'm just kidding.
3.
That was
Either
5.
way.
Jeez.
And then also Borrowed Time TM subscribed for 2 months now, so thank you for
thanks.
that. And Scarfington has subscribed earlier, but we've had a lot of subs today, so thank you very much.
Thank
Once
you,
again,
everybody.
we'll always take your questions at the
Yeah.
end if you are subscribed on Twitch chat.
Let's get some more questions.
Yeah, JBJ Blaze asks, have you guys
Blaze.
played, another subscriber has asked, have you guys played IS Defense? If so, how fun is it to kill ISIS?
So Chris Livingston played it, and I think he wrote about it, right?
Yeah, he did.
That went up on the site, so you can ask Chris. I think he said not a lot of fun.
I think it's just like a very generic, kind of crappy rail shooter, basically. Is what I got from his article about it. I'll post that in the
and
chat.
not a lot of like political substance to it from what I can gather as well. So
You know, there,
kind of like controversy for the sake of controversy. The only reason you're fighting ISIS is because they knew it was going to get people to talk about the game, basically.
and you know, the last game they made like is actually controversial. I don't think this isn't even controversial.
No.
It's just like it's putting a name on in so many shooters, like you kill terrorists.
Yeah.
Okay, you're just putting like a real world name on that, and there's no controversy there. You just put like the thinnest possible layer of a stupid theme on top of your generic game that is a turret shooter, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's nothing to do but kind of roll your eyes at that controversy. No one thinks shooting terrorists is that's not going to create a political firestorm. Like, if it's a good turret shooter, fine, whatever. If it's a bad turret shooter, who has time for that?
So much so that we can move on from that question entirely.
Yeah,
It's on the
please.
site.
Chris86 says, anyone in the office addicted to Steven's sausage roll like me?
I forgot to mention it in my now playing.
No, it's not that you forgot to mention it. It's just that you talked about Quantum Break for 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I've been playing Steven Sausage Roll. Brief overview. It's a top-down, grid-based kind of puzzle game where you move a little dude around, square by square, and he's holding a fork that pivots. And you push sausages around that occupy 2 squares. Your goal is to cook them on grills on these little maps, one time on every quadrant of the sausage. And it's incredibly like simple mechanically in that you can move around and push sausages on this limited space, but how you do it without burning them and cooking them more than once, it's absolutely infuriating. But it's also, people have compared it to Dark Souls. It's the Dark Souls of puzzle games because
Somewhat ironically.
yeah. That statement has no meaning anymore, but we use it. All the rules are there from the get-go, and it's just a matter of you having the patience, which it enables by having like a very easy like undo button. You can undo without penalty, any sequence of moves. And it just lets you tinker around. It's a lot of fun. I've enjoyed it so far. I've played like 2 hours and have solved like maybe 10 or 12 puzzles. So the pace is definitely slow. It's going to take some adjusting, but
I know he worked on this game for years.
It's
polishing every little bit, like making every puzzle. It's a perfect encapsulation of what
absolutely.
you have to do to accomplish.
I look at it as like jumping to the advanced like Sudoku book and just like without a tutorial. Jonathan Blow, as a final endorsement, says it's like one of the better puzzle games he's played in a while or something like that. So if you like The Witness, if you like just simple but complex puzzles, check it out. It's great.
Chris86, who asked that question, actually just subscribed. So
Yeah! My boy Chris.
apparently your
Good job,
answer
James.
was that good, James.
You did it.
I think it was actually the song at the beginning that really did it. Tyler mentioned he liked that. We're just about out of time, but I do really quickly want to take one last question that's very quickly, which is Tin Billy's asked, how excited are you for Total War Warhammer? And I do want to mention, because I did get to play that at PAX East.
And it's pretty baller.
It's pretty good. I was a little disappointed how kind of much it just felt like Total War, but like there weren't like the Griffin or the Hippogriff riders just kind of felt like horse riders. Like it didn't feel super magic-y, but at the same time I was playing the humans.
Well, there is
time.
actual magic.
Yes, there is actual magic. And then I was playing the vampires, which was a really hard race because they have like bats and flying things, but they don't have any ranged units in the entire class or faction. It looks like they're doing a lot of fun stuff with it. I talked to the lead writer, too, and it looks like they're really digging into the lore. He had worked at Games Workshop for a really long time before he went to Creative Assembly, and he actually told me that
Hold on. Did he go to Creative Assembly before they started Total War Warhammer?
He went to Creative Assembly in like 2014, I think.
They've probably been working on it since then. Yeah.
He told me that Creative Assembly and Games Workshop have been talking about making a Total War Warhammer game for 10 years.
Wow.
I would doubt that.
They have 10 years ago. They were like, "We should do this. It would be awesome," and they've just been like waiting to make it happen, basically.
cool.
And they finally can. And also part of Games Workshop giving out their IP of Warhammer way more like liberally nowadays.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I enjoyed it. It's going to be really cool, I think. It's going to very much satisfy Total War players, right? And it's going to satisfy Warhammer players.
And that's me. Like, I've never done any Warhammer tabletop stuff, and I've only dabbled in some of the Warhammer games.
Yeah.
Like video games, but I've played a good amount of Total War and really like Total War. And coming at it from that perspective, what I've played of Warhammer already, I feel like has some very distinct unit differences from Total War. I mean, just like having goblins rushing at you on spiders,
Fucking cool.
maybe that's functionally similar to a horse cavalry because it is a fast-moving, cavalry unit, but it still feels very distinct.
Yeah,
and then when
it
you have like
does.
a goblin shaman in the back who can summon a giant like fucking godfoot to come down and just crush an entire platoon of your
into
units,
that.
is not a thing that exists in Total War. Like,
Really? I was kidding.
both not the magical element, but like you don't even have. They have like trebuchets and stuff
Right.
like that, but those
No mechanical.
still do not equal the amount of destruction
Okay.
that like a powerful magic spell can just wipe out a whole unit.
The really cool thing too was seeing the heroes, because they were talking about how in the other Total War games they had to make the people like human, right? But now the heroes, your leaders, your generals, are these mythical warriors that can take out a whole platoon on their own. Literally, you can click a platoon of like 100 goblins with your leader guy, and he will just be surrounded by them. And every time he swings his weapon, like 12 dudes just go flying.
It's like that Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's like the opening scene of Lord of the Rings where Sauron is just like knocking humans away. Like it's that, and it's so
I'm into
cool.
it. I'm into it.
And also in Total War you always had kind of like a thin layer of like strategy leveling up your generals and stuff outside of. I guess it was mostly from combat. You know, you'd win battles with them. They would gain skills. You'd give them skills that increased their movement range, that increased like their morale and zeal and that kind of stuff for their army. But now that you have these real hero units in this game, they're actually building some RPG quest chain stuff on the world map where, oh, your character like wants to go do X thing in X place, conquer this place, or follow this, you know, short story path. And if you do that, you get like their mythical weapon or some, you know, ability or item or something you can use in combat. I don't know how deep that system is going to really be, but that is kind of an exciting like Warhammer element being added to Total War that didn't have before.
And part of that, and we really got to stop, but part of that is that They told me that this game is frozen in time, and all the other Total War games, every time you end a turn, you go like forward a year or whatever. This game is actually just turns rather than years, which means that none of the characters grow old and die. You're never in any sort of time pressure in like the world moving forward. Like you can just play the game and do side missions and stuff like that, which I think is kind of neat. But enough about that. We will talk about Total War Warhammer more as we play it more. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We went a little long today, but we just can't stay away from you guys. We love it so much. Once again, we will always be back right here at twitch.tv/PCGamer on Wednesdays at 1 p.m. I'm all frazzled, guys. I'm frazzled.
You're doing fine, Tom.
Thank you. If you are watching on YouTube at youtube.com/PCGamer or on our iTunes podcast or directly at PCGamer.com/podcast, thank you very much as always. We love having you wherever you may be listening from. Please leave us a comment. Please give us good ratings and love us, or hate on us if you do that too. But once again, if you did do that, then you stuck around a long time, so that's impressive for hating us that much. Once again, though, my name is Tom Marks. I've been here with Wes Fenlon and James Davenport, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.